Welcome all to round 5 of the Australian Racecraft S5000 E-Series live from Spa tonight. And we've had a little bit of a change in the team here because Chris Mitchell is unable to be with us tonight, but we've been joined by the dulcet tones of Scott Rankin for the evening. Good evening, Scott.
I've never had that said about me. I've never heard the words dulcet tones and Scott Rankin used in the same sentence. So there you go. Something new for me tonight as well. Yeah, interesting round. Interesting opportunity to go to Spa as well after the interesting round that we saw, and all commiserations to Oscar Piastri on his performance in Formula 1 over the weekend. But yeah, good opportunity to be here. Really interested in the S5000 series. Been following along for a number of weeks now. So on the broadcast and on with the show we go.
It's a great start. I've lost my feed now. That's a good start, isn't it? I'm back. Yes, so we've got qualifying underway at the moment. We've got Josh Stewart actually lighting up the timing screens with his fastest lap at the moment, and series leader is Damon Woods sitting back in 7th. So a little bit like Spa on the weekend. It's all a bit topsy-turvy. The only difference is we haven't got a pile of rain happening.
Yeah, I think the interesting one is going to be, yet again, that run down to turn number 1, though, as well. I mean, interesting start, really, really good opportunity. And you mentioned it, number of drivers up the top there. It's been interesting, just the dominance of Damon Woods. And normally he's there from the get-go, sort of puts his foot down in qualifying, puts it down early, dominates and never really lets up. But not the case this week. I mean, he's down in 7th and he's 7/10 of a second off. That's from him and where he's at, that's a mile off. I'm wondering whether or not there was a lack of practice this week, whether or not he was off participating in Formula Ford somewhere and just hasn't been able to get the time on the sim, and he was scratching for a setup, and that's why he's a long way off.
No, Damon's he's a bit of a calculator. I think in practice this evening he was very, very quick, but he does tend to leave it till when he's got the right fuel, the tyres are up to temperature and everything, and it's one lap and he does it. So I wouldn't write him off quite yet. He may be 7th at the moment, but yeah, I wouldn't write him off quite yet. But Josh Stewart going really, really well. Tim Delisle there in 2nd and Julian Dunn in 3rd. So that's sort of top of the tree. So that looks like that was it. So we are coming off 7th from Damon. He may have had a little off track there. So we're looking at the grid now with Josh Stewart taking pole for this evening with a 1:59.4. That's a pretty quick lap. And Tim Delisle sitting alongside him for Positive Sim Racing. On the 2nd row, we have Julian Dunn, who's been a real star of the series so far from eSports. Nick Bradford, great effort from Nick to put it up on the 2nd row there tonight. Jason Siag there in P5, Downforce Racing, with Greg Olsen beside him, and Greg's been a real challenger right at the front. So we're seeing a bit of a turn up there. Damon Woods in 7th, great effort from Phil Vella there in 8th place. With Ben Holko, No Chance Racing, and Reece Margetts rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, so really, really tight in terms of qualifying as well. Paul Rogers for Synergy Sim Racing and Drew Collins off in alongside of those guys as well. Chris Island, that's probably a little bit further down than I think Chris necessarily would have liked. And Andre Youssef as well. I know both of those guys and they really value themselves. Daniel Harris all the way down in 20th place as well. Know Daniel quite personally as well. I know that he would love to be a long way forward. Scott Bartine as well. There's a number of drivers. The quality of racing right here and the quality that we've seen thus far has just been absolutely insane. And to look at a few of these guys up and down the field and you just sort of say, oh, well, that's probably a little bit out of sync with where I would have put him. Robbie Griffiths, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed as well. Another driver there for Fishy Motorsports in 31st. But again, same thing. There's just so many drivers up and down the field here, Dave, that maybe it's just not all it's cracked up to be here from Belgium.
No, now, the big thing is that run into turn 1, as you mentioned earlier. We saw what happened in the Grand Prix on the weekend with Oscar down the inside. I personally blame Sainz for that, but, you know, that's me. But hoping these guys can get through. The big difference is in the real world that they've got a sand trap on the outside of turn 1 now. Here they've still got runoff, so they can run wide, take an off track and avoid the any incident. So hopefully they're going to pull that up, and we're away. And somebody very, very slow off the line there.
It was the car directly ahead of Damon Woods, I think it was as well. So I think it's 5th on the right-hand side of the road, whoever was launching out of the inside, right? And have a look at them feed down and out here. And like you said, using all that space in the runoff as they come off of turn number 1 down through Eau Rouge and Raidillon for the first time tonight. 15 minutes on the clock for the sprint race, and boy, this is racing. Formula racing at its best as they try and keep the tyres underneath them, and that really tricky to tame nature of the Formula Renault 3.5 and the S5000
Oh, we've got
series.
someone in the background there. That is a huge accident. It looks like Andre Yusuf, and it is a massive accident. I would say that that's probably going to be back to the pits.
Yeah, that's not a race car in any kind of drivable position. But Stewart got a great start, set himself up early, got a really, really good launch, and we're still looking for that driver that didn't get away well. Chris Ireland, by the way, is up a number of spots. Damon Woods +3 already in this opening sector of the lap. But for Ireland, I think that's +6 positions. So he's gone out and grabbed a bunch early here, Dave.
And you got Daniel Harris and Sam Batty up 9 positions, and Sam Batty up 13. So he's obviously gained some from that incident, but still, you don't pass 13 people in one incident there, not that incident. So he's done a great job, great start. There were a couple of real people really straggling at the back. And look at this, look at the 3 simrigs.com cars all running together. Doesn't that look awesome?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. There's a really good opportunity for Josh Stewart to really enforce himself in terms of the point standings. You know, we'll be, after this sprint race, we're going to be halfway through the series here, Dave, and he's a little bit down. This is a really, really good opportunity to see if he can get himself up potentially a couple of places here tonight. Safety car has been called as well.
There we go.
Scramble on lap number 1. That's going to hurt Andre Yusuf. You mentioned it, 6th place in the points coming into tonight. Qualified deep in the field and on his lid on lap number 1. That was someone diving in the pits.
That's interesting. So I'm just trying to get up another feed again.
Great spot on the Andre Yusuf call. Was Andre Yusuf?
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah, it was very sad to see that actually happen, because Andre's been having a great run so far this season.
He's a really lovely guy as well, Andre. He'll talk to you about his racing, loves talking about it. He did get a couple of bits and pieces. Ben Holko as well loses the rear end as he crests Radion at the top of the hill, just barely gets clipped to the front ring, and that's what triggers the incident off of Andre Yusuf. So it was that contact at the front end that spins Yusuf into the barrier, and yeah, that's an issue. Hopefully it'll be a single lap safety car here. Just with the length of the lap, Dave, we'll lose a lot of racing if it's more than one lap.
Yes. So, yeah, it's a long lap here too behind that safety car. So yeah, they're going to be probably a short safety car period, in the fact that he'll only pull probably one lap and he'll go back into the pits. But it does take a lot of time out of our 15-minute race. We've got, average 2-minute lap time. It's only really 6 or 7 laps, or 7 or 8 laps. So, it's not a long time. You lose a lap or two, it's a big portion of the race gone missing. But it does give these guys at the back, there's Holko coming through Eau Rouge right now, but it gives those guys who've dropped off the back a chance to get back in the race. I don't think we're going to have any wave buys at this point, because I don't think anybody's a lap down when you haven't completed a lap.
Well, the only guy that's going to be a lap down is Andre Yusuf, unfortunately, but not much, he can really do about that either. In terms of how everything's sort of set up as well, good opportunity. Shane McGee didn't get a great launch as well. It was something that went on and down the back there. Ben Holko was the other car that was in the incident on the opening lap. They get another bite at the cherry. They'll get in, get a reset. I'm curious as to how much these tyre pressures are going to fall off just a little bit, and whether or not we'll see any issues related to that.
Yeah, they're pretty good on tyres in the sprint race. I think a few of the guys have been taking tyres in the main event, because, with a 30, or is it 30 minutes? I can't remember how long the main event is. But, it's a longer race, and it's pretty much most part of a tank full. And they do find that the tyres go off a little bit towards the end. Now, some guys have been sort of trying to drive through that, and some people have sort of been going, I really need to put some tyres on. It's been quite an interesting little strategic battle there. I noticed that Damon Woods back up in 3rd place, so it didn't take him long to work his way towards the front. But that's your front 3 there is pretty serious stuff. It's good to see Phil Vella up there in 4th place. He's having a much better run tonight. He's had a bit of bad luck with just incidents, and sometimes incidents it's just bad luck. You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Unfortunately, Phil's been on that end of the stick for a few races now, so it'd be really nice to see him get a good clean run, and it's good to see him up there in 4th place. But effectively, these guys are all only really racing for a grid position for the main event anyway. So the main thing is don't put it in the fence. Don't write yourself off. Just try and consolidate a position towards the front to get you a good space for the main event.
Good news, safety car has pulled away, so we will be green in just a few moments. We're waiting on that final notification for the safety car to pull into pit lane. Number of drivers who are up a number of spaces in this one, so we'll keep you updated with the position changes as they come through. But Josh Stewart, again, is going to another opportunity to lead us back to green here. He's going to hold them up. He's going to bank them up. How long do you reckon he's going to wait? Still waiting. Still waiting. We are not green yet. Have a look at the pack, all spread out, all bank up in behind him. They're chomping in the pit.
He'll go. I'm surprised he hasn't gone. He's gone now. I think he's gone now. Yeah, he's gone now.
Yep, so waiting for that last opportunity. The rundown at turn number 1 for race number 1 on restart number 1 of tonight's racing action, Spa-Francorchamps. It's going to be a long night of racing action. And I can tell you, ladies and gents, it's still getting dicey down the back end of things as drivers taking evasive action.
Yeah, now the interesting thing there is Julian Dunn slid right down the list of 31st place. I don't know what happened. Was he the person who entered the pits? But he's dropped back to 31st place from front of the grid. That's 28 spots dropped. So that's interesting. Here's Woods in the slipstream and Joshua Stewart making a move up the inside of Woods of Olsen there. But Olsen's managed to just outbrake him and just hang on to that second place. They're fighting hard there at the front.
We'll get the replay. This will be the restart. Yes, everyone was banked up and just waiting for that restart to trigger. I think they're 3-4 wide as they come on and down into the last corner. So they'll be looking at that one.
And he's caught. Julian's been caught in that melee back in the, and that's very similar to what happens quite often in the endurance races, because on their restarts, that chicane just before the start is a really awkward position. So we see that quite often in the real world. It's happening here as well. There's somebody running wide. Is that, I'm guessing it's Jacob Maybury there. Just run a little bit wide through Puhong.
Yeah, and an update as well on Scott Bartone. If you're following into the virtual motorsport mentor cars, he was also backwards. I think he's done that on his own, picked up the throttle just a little bit too aggressively, and I think it was just coming off a corner with no name onto Puhon. So a number of cars caught up yet again. Olsen's having a good night here as well for Greg Olsen. Another good opportunity to score a bank of points, and that's not what Josh Stewart wants to see. He wants to see Greg Olsen a few more cars further down. Have a look at Damon Woods in the meantime, who is going to pull out, who is going to get aggressive. And too wide in the bus stop chicane. He'll have the inside for the second corner.
Oh, that's good forceful driving. Held it around the outside to earn his right to the apex of the second part of that corner. But he isn't over yet, because here's Olsen coming back at him up into La Source.
And this is everything
again.
Josh Stewart wants to see. He wants to see these guys hammer and tong at each other, because he's nearly broken that toe. He was so close to that second marker where that slipstream really starts to fail off. They've caught a little bit in on of it, and I'm wondering whether or not there might be a few guys punching that DRS button down this straight, trying to just get aggressive. And here comes Woods again. Woods will move to the left-hand side of the road. He's not the only one. Vella's going to be buying into this one as well. Phil Vella will have a shot at Damon Woods, and Woods has not got the momentum. Move not done. Very, very deep. Rob on the outside and picks the pocket there of Greg Olsen. Will get the job done. 7th to 2nd now complete. Can he set sail and try and pick up good old Josh Stewart in first?
It's not often you see somebody go around the outside of Greg Olsen. Greg's a fantastic steerer, and he must be sitting there going, where the hell's he got that pace? But this is an open setup category, so they are running different setups. So you might find Damon's got, I reckon he might be carrying a little bit more wing, because it looks like he doesn't have the straight line speed, but he's certainly got it in the braking and he's got it in the corners. So that might be the little difference between the two of them at the moment.
We'll have to keep half an eye on things in terms of things, though. In the meantime, Chris Island making up for lost qualifying time, and deeper in the pack, Rob Bowden's on the ascent as well. Bataille still going backwards as well. Where did he start? Sam Bataille? No, actually, sorry, my apologies. Has come forward from 25th. Now he is all the way up to 13th. 12 spots gained in the sprint race. That's immense, given that we've only really had 1.5 laps of racing action.
You got to say Damon Woods up 5 spots when he only started 7th. That's 5 of the fastest guys in the field he's managed to pass. So that's impressive. As
And Luke Hyden plus 17 spots as well. Got through the carnage. First and foremost, you've got to make it through the carnage, but then he's not only survived the carnage, he's picked off spots. In the meantime, he's going to have a phenomenal battle here with Anthony Marzoka, as these guys will go side by side in the final chicane. Yields on the first entry. Maybe he's looking for that toe through the final one. And strategy. Oh, Marzoka.
These cars are susceptible to that on the way out. You get a bit hungry, grab a bit too much throttle, they light up the rears, and next thing you know, you're going sideways. And we just saw exactly that there with Marzoka. He's on board with him, so he's got there, and he just got a little bit too much too much weight on the pedal there as he mounted that curve on the outside, and it's just lost traction, got sideways, and away goes that position. These cars are a real handful to drive. They're fantastically rewarding when you get them right, but God, they're hard to get right.
Oh my word! It's one of the biggest things I heard about these cars, and I have driven a little bit of them, not a lot, but one of the big things I heard from drivers who drove a lot of them is you've got to think of them as having a binary throttle. What does binary mean? Two modes, on or off. The modes in this car: wheel spinning or no wheel spinning, and on or off is the throttle. So a little bit of that in the driver's mindset, and using all the track through the corner with no name on the run down to Pillman. The best thing about this field as well, Dave, is have a look at the number of drivers going up and down the field. You cannot have a big field like this and have all the drivers spread out. Where's all the action gone? No, none of that here from the Formula S5000.
No, it's a great battle here. We're looking at Rob Bowden. Rob Bowden, I call him the professor. They're working on the back of Tim Delisle. Now, Tim's out of position. Tim is usually running right at the front, and he's back in 11th place as we sit, which is really unusual for Tim. He's one of he's always in that top three, so I don't know what's going on with Tim tonight, but they've got an opportunity to tweak the setups between the sprint race and the feature race, so you may find that change for the next race as well. And if you look at the wings, some of the wings, I noticed I was watching in qualifying, and some of the guys were running, you could see the difference in the wing settings. So some were quite low and some were really like a barn door on the back. They look a lot more even here in the race, but in qualifying, some of them were running the wings really flat. The other thing that's interesting is when you run no wing, or run really low wing, the DRS in this model from iRacing doesn't work, because effectively what they use is when you've got a high wing setting and you hit the DRS, it just alters the car to be the low wing setting. So when you've got a low wing setting on it to start with and you press the button, you don't get any advantage. That's why a lot of the guys are running a bit more wing, because they can alleviate that with the need of a push for pass. And in the sprint race, you've got eight operations of the push to pass. In the sprint race, that's one lap. That's probably all you need. Whereas in the feature race, you might find that changes again, because you haven't got as much use of the DRS, because there's more laps. So you might find them running a bit lower wing in the main event.
Yeah, but the same, look, I mean, it's a little bit different with that as well. You've got some fans actually shouting out, by the way, Dave. Sher wants Dave Roberts to say hello. So,
sorry, I've got my hands full, but yes, I did see Sher was first one in the chat as always. Good evening, Sher. I hope you're having a wonderful night. We're having our hands full, but it's good. There's a hell of a battle in front. Tim Delisle all over the back there of Jansen. He's actually managed to slide it up the inside, so now that's Tim up to 9th. So he's moving his way forward again.
Yeah, and through the Fania chicane, that is not an easy spot to try and overtake as well. I really like the points you made about the thought process. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there'll be a couple guys who'll punch that DRS in the first lap, maybe even the first 3 laps. They'll burn 2 or 3 of them in the first 3 laps, trying to punch away so that they're not getting drafted. And they'll see what the race happens to them if they can get some clear air. A little bit different in race number 1. In the meantime, Joshua Stewart still leads the way. Set a 59.396 in qualifying. There were 3 drivers that set 159s.
That looks like the white flag there being waved. Yeah, what's he doing hiding over in the corner with it?
I mean, have you seen the amount of S5000s travelling down that main straight? That might be a safe spot to stand in, all right.
He's hiding behind the wall. I don't blame him. So last lap, can Damon Woods pull it in? He's only 7 tenths behind. They will have saved up enough DRS users to cover this lap, so they'll all be pressing the button for drag reduction. I don't think he can do it. I think Josh Stewart can hang on to this, and that would be a just reward, because he's driven brilliantly in this sprint race.
Well, the critical factor, Dave, was after like that lap 3, basically 2 laps after that restart, when Woods got the move done on Olsen, he was 1.5 seconds down the road. He was clear. He broke the toe. So for Damon to get back into this one, he's done a phenomenal job, but he's going to run out of time. I think you're right.
You know, Josh is always there, and he's always on the pace. But it looks like he's really loving the evening at Spa, because, well, isn't it one of the greatest circuits in the world? It really is. It's a fabulous track, and it really suits these high-powered, high-downforce bloody open wheelers. They're perfect for this sort of circuit, as we saw on Sunday.
Update from the back end of the field as well for you, Dave. Will Ryan just had a spin at the Lacombe chicane just before he turned down in to Malmedy at the back end of the circuit. Dropped from, I think, about 15th place, 14th, 15th place down to be the last car on the lead lap.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the chat window, and apart from somebody making Chris Island an offer of marriage, that's unfortunate for Will, but no damage, plenty of time to get that back. Yeah, apart from an offer of marriage to Will Ryan, which I'm not quite sure about that, it's actually lit up, so there's quite good chat there. If you're watching this, jump on the chat window, have a bit of a yak, because it's good. You get to talk to all your other spectators, and sort of, you can all be armchair experts like me watching the F1. So there we go. Josh Stewart takes the win. Fabulous win. Damon Wood second. Greg Olsen in third. Phil Vella, top four. Great finish, Phil. Chris Island in five. Another great drive. These guys all done really, really well. Chris Island, Drew Collins there in sixth. Jason Siag in seventh. Tim Delisle got up to eighth. Jansen in ninth. And Rob Bowden rounds out the top 10. Whoa.
There's a huge stack up in the final chicane.
Massive one. That is Bailey Evans on his lid. That's not the way you want to finish the race, is it?
No, and for a lot of those drivers, they come in there sort of really unsighted if they haven't got the triple monitors as well.
What's happened here? We've got Evans has come through. I'm going to guess he spins it here somewhere. Oh, he's touched the back of... So, and then he's got clobbered from behind. No. Don't quite know what went on there. It looks like whoever he clobbered there... on the inside, he's clobbered is wrong. He's actually just touched him with a wheel there, but it looks like when they've gone over, and then he's going to move for. Oh, that's a dreadful rejoin by whoever that was. I think you'll find somebody there will be sort of copying a little penalty. That was pretty poor driving inside and tipping him upside down. Anyway. Let's move on. I'm not
sure who that was. Was it?
No, neither am I. I didn't see a number. We're getting. Here we go. We got another one. Let's see if I can get a number on that car. 224. So 224. Sam Badai. Sam, that's a really shocking piece of driving. Sorry, but it is.
Which is unfortunate, because he had a banging race. Yeah. He was one of the biggest movers.
I'd suggest that race control will be all over that, and I'm sort of half guessing that Sam will be off the back of the grid or pit lane would be my guess, but I may be wrong and I shouldn't prejudge, but that was a pretty poor effort. Anyway.
I'm curious what the visibility from his cockpit was like, because to be perfectly honest, he may not have seen him. Remembering, ladies and gentlemen at home, all of our sim racing fans will know this, but everyone's got their different way. There is no two sim rigs that are alike.
So some people are on triple monitors. Some people are using VR. I'm a VR guy myself. I love VR. It gives me a much more realistic experience. And some people are still on a single monitor. But I'm going to find it hard to believe anything on that one, because the guy he hit was right in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. As it should have known he was there, but I think he was expecting him to pick up the throttle and go somewhere as well. Like,
unless he was looking down at his relative and not looking at the screen in front of him, which would be the only thing I could think of. But race controller there, they're on top of it. They will sort it out, I am sure. So now we may have. Do we
Josh
have?
Stewart?
We do. Hi, Josh. Well done. Congratulations, mate. What a fantastic start to your weekend of Spa.
Oh, thanks, guys. It's been a while. I think I won the first sprint of this series and then haven't been on the podium since, so I'm stoked to be back here, and especially at Spa.
Looked like you had some pretty good pace. Damon was on your tail there on the last lap. I expect you saw him in the mirrors.
Absolutely, I saw him in the mirrors. I couldn't take my eyes off it the whole race. I knew it was going to come strong, and the draft is really strong here at Spa. So I had about 7/10 at La Source, so I knew I had him covered along Kimmel, but then I knew it was going to come pretty hard and maybe dive at the bus stop. But so I took a pretty defensive line there and just broke in the middle of the chicane.
It's also the sprint race. You guys don't want to risk too much because it's all about starting off the front row of the grid for the feature, isn't it?
Well, you say that, except lap 1, there was an incident that took out one of the the front row guys. So I feel bad for Tim on that, but it looks like he made a good recovery. So
he did. He got up to 8, so he's still in there. A little bit of a concern for Julian Dunn. Julian was way down the list. I don't quite know what happened there. I think he dived into the pits, but I don't even know where he finished, to be honest. It's... no, I don't know. So anyway, what about your strategy for the feature race? Do you approach this differently? What about tyres? They good for the whole event? Pit stop early, pit stop late. There's a lot of things, isn't there? And also managing that push to pass system. Yeah, and the pit stop has caught me out last time at Silverstone. So I've been practicing my pit stops to make sure I hit the pit limiter button correctly, but I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think the tires will make the distance. I think going long is the way to go, but like you said, there's so much can happen. We'll see. There's a lot of incidents so far, so I think safety cars will play a big role as well. So and if safety cars are there, going long's not a good thing, is it?
No,
because you can get caught out by the safety car.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Maybe a nose stopper might be in play. We'll see.
Was it back in Austria? Right. Somebody did pull the nose stopper back at Austria. So, Josh, you've got some numbers, I think, to go, Ryan. You've got the brains ticking over by the sounds of it, mate. Look, you'll take those. Hey, P1 from race 1. Can we do P2 from race 2? You'll still be happy with that.
I would be stoked. I just want a clean race. That's it. Clean feature race. That's it. So
yeah, so do we. So, Josh, mate, all the best. Love to see you. Love to be talking to you again later. Hope that happens.
Yeah. Likewise, dudes. Take care.
Cheers, mate.
See ya.
Well, he sounded pretty happy about his efforts there in the sprint race. Hey, that was a good effort, and it's good to see somebody else taking that top step of the podium because Damon sort of locked it down as his own over the last couple of rounds.
Yeah, I mean, Damon's just unreal, isn't he? Like, I've seen him in a couple of series now, and basically every time I see him out on track, he's like this. Actually, Damon's one of those drivers I kind of sort of want to kick half a tab on. In terms of his real-world commitments, because he does race Formula Fords in Victoria, and I've actually seen him miss rounds of other series. Obviously, this one being midweek, it's a fair bit easier to make, but Friday night series and Monday night series is a lot more difficult. Weekend series he obviously can't make with his Formula Ford commitments in real life. So, he manages that. Obviously, he's got his track time and his track commitments, which does sort of help. But he's certainly a rising star come for the future. 16, 17. I think he's just had his 17th birthday as well. So, look, I mean,
hopefully he might be able to do the new series that FRG announced this week, which is the Junior Esports Academy. So there's an event that's just been announced by FRG and Motorsport Australia, and it's over a course of a weekend. But the winner takes away a prize, which is attendance at International Driver Academy in Malaysia.
Yeah.
About a $15,000 prize. So we should go to the grid here. Now, Josh Stewart and Damon Woods off the front row there, side by side. It'll be interesting. Damon will have the inside line into the first corner. So see how they go getting off the line. These are not easy to get off the line. Greg Olsen and Phil Veller off row 2, with Chris Island and Drew Collins there in the third row.
Yeah, and then moving back to Jason Segg and Tim Delisle for Downforce and Positive Sim Racing, Steve Jansen and Rob Bowden are the big ones as well. Two big movers in that race off of 11th and 12th, which was Daniel Harris and Marzoka as well. There's a few drivers up and down the field I think that are really, really out of sync here, and there's a couple way.
Big one there is Julian Gunn in 27th place. That's way out of position, and beside him on that grid is Andre Youssef. So now we've got we should be close to a start here. We'll usually see the tyres start spinning. It's a little bit of an anomaly with iRacing and the FR 3.5. They're off. And it looks like Josh Stewart's made a cracker start, as has Greg Olsen.
Yeah, I think there was actually a couple of dives. I think Dunn might have actually got a blinder. There's somebody that's gained about 7 or 8 spots down at the source by the time they've gotten to the source from the back end of the field. They're 4 wide in the background and still managed to come away with it, Dave. That's unreal at lap number 1.
Let's hope we don't see any cartwheels up through Eau Rouge this time. So through Eau Rouge and Radion and up onto the Camel Straight, we're seeing there Olsen popping out of the toe straight away. Is he pulling a push to pass on the first lap to try and take hold of this race right on the start? So that's what he's done. He's run up the outside and Woods is sitting there with nowhere to go. He's sitting there going, I can't fit through that hole in the middle. Good boys, can you spread it a little bit for me? But 3 wide would just be craziness.
I can tell you, I think it was Marcus Knitzer and someone else. I think Scott Bartime might have been involved in a number of drivers way down at the tail end. Somebody basically missed their braking marker by, I reckon, probably about 3 or 4 meters on the run into the Lacombe, and then just locked the fronts all the way in on cold tires as well. Hot tires, back to cold tires. It's a big feature of feature races as well. But in the meantime, Josh Stewart said, look, I just want a clean race. That's all I'm going to get. Well, the track in front of him is clean at the moment. Much easier to keep a clean race from there.
And Julian Dunn is already up 8 positions in the first half a dozen corners. So he's up to 8. He's up to 19th spot already. Oh, 8, make that 18th. He's just popped off another one. Paul Rogers looks to be falling down through the list, so he must be off the road somewhere. Is that Paul right there? I think it is. Yes. Yeah, so Julian Dunn's a massive start. So he's absolutely got the focus and he is going for it. And here we go. But he will be using push to pass on a lot of these guys, you know. So that's going to... Oh, that's a big move down. Oh, and that's 2. He's going to get another one here.
Holco. Yeah, that was Ben Holco that just got run off track by Nick. I don't think it was Nick Bottrell. It was somebody else that was in and about there.
And Julian's he's got caught behind them. Oh, no. And we've got cars around. That was a huge dive for lap 1 of a long race.
And now he's got to get the eyes back on and get settled back in. We'll see if he's able to do it.
Will Ryan there. Will Ryan, wrong place, wrong time. But that happens. What goes around comes around.
I think he's going to have one of these races, Julian Dunn. Yeah. Like lap 1, if we can get a replay of Julian Dunn's run to the first corner, I tell you, I kid you not, he found a hole, and I reckon there's a good 6-7 cars he's passed before he gets to the first corner. Because this is just unreal. One of the best starts I've ever seen. At the moment, he's actually 3 wide as well as they run down the Camel.
That almost looked like a jump start.
I think he's timed the round.
I wonder whether that's what happened in the first race. Did he get a jump start and have to go to he went to the pits on the lap 1?
Yep.
Was that the reason?
Yeah, well, the other side of the coin is, I just had a quick look through the field. No black flags for jump starts. There is not a single one. So everyone got their launch perfect. Julian Dunn, better than all the rest.
And he's still up 10 spots. Even now. And Bailey Evans right behind him, and he's up 12 spots. So some big movers.
And the best part is he held up in that chicane. It only cost him about 3 or 4 seconds, so he actually didn't lose a whole bunch of time. So top 10, definitely on. Top 5, not out of the question, but a very, very tough ask.
And while we were watching all that, Greg Olsen's grabbed the lead off Josh Stewart. And he's pulled a half a second. So Greg Olsen out in front. Now, I said on the first lap, he looked aggressive. He was going for it. He wanted that front position. He grabbed it. And at the moment, Damon Woods is stuck back there behind Josh Stewart. So Greg's going to absolutely put the hammer down, try and get a break here, because he needs to get that break before Damon gets, in case those guys get together and start using the toe and making a bit of a headway. He's got to try and make a bit of a break on them.
Island there, getting the elbows out as well. Daniel Edmonds is a number of drivers. I wonder whether or not, I know from what I understand of Damon Woods' rating thus far, fuel saving Damon Woods just doesn't happen. Does not try and fuel save. So he'll try and push on and make some advantage here. But I wonder whether or not Josh Stewart might just let that happen. No, never mind. Nose is going to come out. None of these guys are fuel saving whatsoever. It's a big ass, very, very long lap. To even save 1 lap with the fuel, long lap.
They don't really need to save fuel because they're going to pit stop. But the only thing is, if they use a bit more, they've got to put a bit more in, so it'll make them stop a little bit slower. But, the thing is, these guys are just they're driving 10 tenths, 100%. And it is, for them, it's not a feature race and a sprint race. They're all a sprint race. This is just a longer sprint race.
Reese Margetts is actually off at the Lacombe chicane on this lap as well here, Dave. So another driver sort of struggling in the openings of this one.
Here we go. It looks like we've got a replay of that coming up now. So Reese Margetts there in the white car, and he's tried to dive up the inside of, is that Rob Bowden, it looks like, and they've had a little bit of net code there. He's gone a bit wide. Look, that's not too bad. These cars are pretty strong. I think he'd be probably all right off that little bump into the fence. And there goes Julian Dunn, another spot gained.
He is absolutely flying, and I tell you what, he's running right up on Damien Cairns as well. Will be his next victim. At this point, I think they're victims. I really don't think that they're going to stand any sort of stiff competition. I think this is Julian Dunn, and red mist might have descended a little bit for Julian, which is never a bad thing to see. I love watching drivers go with the red mist on.
Damien Cairns there bowling a bit of a wide coming out of the second part of Stablot. But also, you've got to remember, these guys have got a genuine Motorsport Australia National Championship on the line here. So that's why it's serious. It's not just a sim race. This is a national championship. At the end of the year, these guys get to go to the Motorsport Australia Awards and take that trophy on stage in front of all the other, champions that'll be awarded for the year. So it's a pretty serious thing, and it could, for some people, could really create a little bit of a doorway into motorsport.
Well, that's the thing. I've been waiting for that driver that sort of jumps out of sim racing and goes somewhere. I mean, you have a look at your Brody Kostekis, who started oval racing out of the States and has been on iRacing for a number of years, and now have a look at what he's doing with his career. And Damon Woods, again, is going to be another one of those guys. 3 wide on the run down to the Lacombe chicane.
Oh, he backed out of it. He backed out of it. He had to go there, but he backed out of it. He did not want to cause an incident there, so he's backed out of that. But he got the double toe, so he's popped off the back of Vella onto the back of is that Olsen, and then tried to run up the inside. Nope.
I wonder whether or not a few of those guys are like, you know what, Damon's getting away from us, and they get the elbows out. All of a sudden, a few guys that do get the elbows out, and they go, look, he's running away with things. That's it. You get no more freebies.
Josh Stewart's made the break because he's 2 seconds up the road on Olsen. So this is Olsen, Vella and Woods battling for second place. So Woods is now back in fourth place, which is very unfamiliar territory to him. But Josh Stewart is making a break. He's bolting away, and he's 2 seconds to the good of Olsen at the moment. So he's taken that place back and while they're fighting, he's making good and making hay while the sun's shining.
I wouldn't see the other side of the coin. Remember what we were talking about, those push-to-passes? If he's out here and he's this far out in front, why not push on a few extra of those push-to-passes? Why not make that margin go out a little bit? What it does to the psychology, Dave, all of a sudden, if the second, third, fourth guys look at each other and they go, well, he's gone. He's 5 seconds gone. All of a sudden, they go, okay, well, that's over. We'll squabble for second place now. We're not going to care about the win. We've got to fight for every point that's on offer. So him pushing on, much like Sam Mort pushing out and deep into that braking zone, might play the psychology.
Into the chicane. So then we've got Nick Bottrell's causing an incident on lap 1, and he's got a 10-second penalty for that. That's unfortunate for Nick, but race control are pretty hot on it. So now we're going to see that. What are we going to see there? Somewhere here, Nick Bottrell, car 225. There he is, the orange one. Oh, and he's locked up, clipped the back of somebody, and he's turned somebody around into that corner. So for doing that from behind, he's copped a 10-second penalty from race control, which is fair enough.
That was that car that I was talking about that just sort of cold tyres missed their braking zone lap number 1. That was the incident I actually saw at the back of the shot. So
these guys having a ball. Now Bailey Evans here, he was towing. He's swapping the toe and giving it to one, giving it to the other, because if he gives it to one, they get too much of a toe and they'll pass him. But by sharing it across, so he moves across in front of the other car and gives them the toe for a bit and puts them up side by side into the corner, then they battle and he can make a break. It's really strategic what he's doing, and that's a really nice piece of driving.
Hey, back to Julian Dunn. If you thought he was lurking beneath the water, not anymore. Gets the elbows out. He's going to pick off Jason Sieg on this lap, and it might just be Steve Jansen before too much more has gone on. The Fania chicane, shadows to the inside, and Julian Dunn is not going to encounter the stiffest of resistance there. One more for the books. He's inside the top 10, and guess what? We've still got 40 minutes of racing action to come your way.
I think a lot of these guys, they see Julian's livery. It's pretty distinctive. They know who it is behind them on their relative, and they go, I've got 40 minutes to go. I can't hold him off. I'll just let him by and see if I can sit in his wheel tracks and let him tow me away from the pack. That would be what I would be doing, and I think these guys are doing a similar thing, which makes it a little bit easier for Julian to get through that pack. But Siag, they're trying to get down the outside of Jansen, but there's just no room. And these cars are so quick, and they're big brakes. Very, very hard to sort of outbrake somebody because everybody's braking on the limit to start with. So, yeah.
I mean, the other side of things, I reckon Jansen's let him go there just because now he's a bridge. Julian Dunn's a bridge between the pack that's ahead of them. There's sort of 3 or 4 cars in a little bit of a gap just ahead of them. So now he's bridged that gap and he's punching on a little bit quicker. They've all got that tow, so it works out better. Sometimes just letting somebody go, not fighting, not squabbling, you can lose a pack really, really quickly. If you want to squabble over it, you buy other people into it. Working together a little bit always brings you back into things. So sometimes 40-minute race, I think you bang on though. I think it's just too early to fight.
So I'm looking at the lead now. Stewart's got that out to 2.3, so he's gained nearly another half a second out of that breakaway. And Olsen's there, Vella's in third. Woods is still back in 4th place. So Vella's got a foot on the podium, and he ain't taking it off. Not unless somebody pushes him off there. Is he going to let that go? He's camping in 3rd place, but that's great to see. Great to see somebody come up from just outside that top pack to really threaten and push their way in there. The more people at the front, the better the racing is, and I love this.
Yeah, look at this from Julian Dunn. He is pushing on. Now, this is the bridge. That pack that I was talking about, he's now tagged onto it. 3 more victims. Julian Dunn, he is the apex predator, and I tell you what, you're in his food web. You're about to be lined up. You're in his sights. Whether or not he punches that DRS button, you better be looking in that rear view mirror, and there'll be a few drivers right here. Daniel Harris will be the first among them. After that, it's going to be on to Drew Collins and Daniel Edmonds will be the cars that he's looking for. In the meantime, Damon Woods has just sent it up the inside of Phil Vella, and he's got himself another spot. No, Vella's going to fight back and steal that one as well as we keep to watch the battle from Julian Dunn. And I think Damon Woods has actually just lost another spot. Woods is back to 5th place. Guess who's in this one, Dave? It's Tim Delisle.
Tim Delisle. So Tim's worked his way back. We said he was back in 8th in the sprint race, out of position. He's worked his way back up there, and now he's attacking. Vella's looking in the mirror and going, would you guys just leave me alone? I just want to drive.
Hang on. Have a look at Stewart and Olsen, because Olsen's now got himself 2 seconds. This is Delisle. This is what he's looking at. This was Woods to the inside. Sent it. Got aggressive. Rode the curbs. And Tim Delisle says, thank you, boys. Open the door. I'll kick it on down whilst I'm going through.
That's some awesome racing there. So now we've got 2.6 seconds out from Olsen. So Stewart he's off. He's gone.
He is. And Olsen's off from this pack as well. And Tim Delisle has suddenly lit the afterburners alight because he's got through on Phil Vella as well. So he went from 5th on the end of last lap all the way through to 3rd. Is Tim Delisle the next car that pushes clear at the front?
So we've got these 3 are battling so hard, and that's what's giving Josh Stewart that ability to break away. Now we've got Dunn, so he's lining up Collins next, and after Collins, he's got about a 3-second gap up the road to catch Ireland. So that's going to be a big challenge for him to close that hole, but he's right on the back of Collins now. I love the way they put their name on the rear wing. I wish they would all do that. It makes it so easy for us as commentators. So Drew Collins there, thank you, mate. Love the livery, love your name on the back wing. It makes it easy. And
Phil Vella's failing because he just ran off. So Stavolo, he was out in the dirty stuff. It might be in Damon Woods' best interest just to punch that DRS.
Play nice.
That flat round the outside of Blanchimont. It is absolutely white the risk. Blanchimont means Blanche is white in French. So I believe it's got something to do with the colour white. And Damon Woods has now got himself through. And Tim Delisle needs to be that next victim. And Woods is pushing on because he's starting to lose Delisle.
I think Phil will be really happy just to be mixing it with, there's a really wide corner there from Olsen. There's definitely some incident points, and they only get 17 for the race. And Spa is pretty harsh on incidents. So We need to keep an eye on that as well, because we might find somebody getting a bit of a drive-through for too many incident points. But Ireland's hanging on to the back of Vela as well. He's not that far away. And then you've got Dunn. He's 4 seconds off the back of Vela. Can he get himself up into this? They've got a fair way to go, and they've got a pit stop to go yet. So, anything can happen, and it's going to be really interesting to see who goes to that pit lane first, because if you go early and there's a safety car, you've got track position, because the safety car closes everybody up and the guys in front of you have still got to take a spot. So, when is somebody going to take that first pit stop and give themselves the potential track position versus running it long, and then you get very low fuel and you put very little fuel in. It makes a very quick stop if you run it late. So they're going to be playing that strategy game of, do I go early, do I go late? And it all depends on an accident and safety car.
Yeah, something else I'm just keeping an eye on in the background as well. Julian Dunn, how's this for pace? Took a second out of Chris Ireland on that last lap. Absolutely pushing on.
And Chris really wide there. That's definitely an incident point off the edge there. Wow, look at that. So I'm looking at Ireland and Dunn, 1.7 seconds down from 7.6 in 5 laps. That's pretty impressive.
Just trying to see if we can get... No, I'm not going to be able to get it. I was hoping I might have some information on where everyone's push to pass counts or DRS flap opening counts are out, and unfortunately not looking like I'm actually going to be able to give you a live count on that one. That'll be something that'll play into it at the back end of things, and closing a few gaps down. It is strategical. Got to use them critically, and for the first time I've seen Julian Dunn get a little bit antsy on those rear tyres. Lap times are important, ladies and gentlemen. In qualifying, we're down into the 59. Low 59s was what was set for the pole position. 2:01.0 for our race leader on the last time by. Greg Olsen ran a 2:01.690, so dropped 6/10, but he also dropped 6/10 to Tim Delisle. So Tim Delisle is also going to start coming on, but it's Delisle that set the fastest lap of the race thus far. It is, and look at that, 4 thousandths of a second. 4 thousandths of a second in the fastest lap of the race.
Yes. And
that can eye that quick.
And that's the last lap. Tim Delisle was the fastest guy on the track. So Tim's still in there. Greg Olsen's about half a second back on that time, so he must have had a little bit of a moment. And Chris Ireland's back running in the 2:02, so that's why we're going to find Julian Dunn all over the back of him very, very shortly, because Julian Dunn's running 2:01.2, which is a full second faster than Christopher Ireland, so he's going to be all over Chris in no time at all. And Vela there, I'm really impressed with Phil Vela tonight. He's having a really great run at 2:01.4 his last lap, so he's really mixing up with these guys at the front. He's got the pace. I think he just loves this track. I know I do.
I'm enjoying all the action that's been cast on this track tonight, that's for sure. So updates in from the chat. Somebody's actually been directly watching Julian Dunn's times. He was at 14 seconds back from our leader, so he's taken 4 seconds out of the race lead. That's how hard he's pushing on. He's been consistently the faster car of everyone, but I think there's some time starting to come into it. And 17 wing versus 16 wing. 17 wing will certainly get you that top speed that you might need, but it's going to burn through rear tyres, was comments coming into us from the chat here tonight, Dave. So again, more things to think about.
Yeah, I mean, tyre wear's a big thing, and with these, if you drive them too hard, you can overheat the tyres. They get a bit loose in the rear, and as we saw in the sprint race there, it's very easy to light up the rears on the way out of a corner. So you don't want to get that wheel spin, because that'll really upset things. I see Vela's just turned another 2:01.4. So although he may not be quite as fast as the guys in front, he's being incredibly consistent. So I see there 2:01.099 from Damon Woods. So Damon Woods was the fastest guy around that last lap, except for Julian Dunn, a 2:07.
How's this for consistency, though, between our top guys? Race leader Josh Stewart, 2:01.142. P2, Greg Olsen, 2:01.113. 0.029 of a second behind him. And then Tim Delisle was the slowest of our top three, 2:01.165. And then you mentioned it back to Damon Woods is right there. Got into the zeros on that lap by just... We've got our top 4 cars setting lap times covered by what? 600ths of a second? Are you kidding me?
And look at the length of the circuit. It's not a little track. It's a long track. It's a 2-minute lap. So on a short circuit, that would be, you would think that would be a third of that. Well, it couldn't be. There's not that big a gap.
Mate, We are literally talking at the end of a lap, the top 4 cars would be separated by probably a meter. 2 meters at the most.
Probably not that much.
My word.
So what? Now, again, as I said, when is the first pit stop going to fall? Because what are they on now? They got 30 minutes to go. So we've had a. How long was the race? I've lost track. I've got far too excited.
We've got 50 minutes. Yes,
50 minutes. We've had 20 minutes. So I reckon that in about 10 minutes. So this is sort of the consolidation factor where they're thinking about when they're going to pit stop. They're trying to turn it good, consistent laps and just gain a little bit of ground on the front. We'll see how the gaps have opened there. There's a little bit of a gap between Delisle and Woods and a bit of a gap between Woods and Vella. So they're all running about a second apart. You know, there's a bit of a gap back to Julian Dunn there, but that won't last for very long. 2 seconds away he is from being in this battle. And Dunn turns another 2 minute dead, 2 minute 0.4. So he is he's gaining on them about half a second a lap at the moment. But you know, somebody's going to go, I'm going to make a pit stop, and when they do, it'll be interesting. Do they go up on the jacks? Will they take tyres? Will they just take fuel? You know, it's a big track. It's pretty hard on tyres, so they might go and grab some tyres, especially if you're like Julian Dunn and you've been pushing it that hard. You may need to take tyres.
Yeah, I'm starting to think, just with the way that those lap times are coming in, did somebody tell these guys the race is finished, we're now time trialing to the end of the session? Because that's how they're pushing on. Yeah, and look at Dunn's lap times as well. The other key thing is that Tim Delisle on that last lap, just barely at the end of the lap, bought into Greg Olson's toe. So he's feeling a little bit of dirty air at the moment, but he is coming. So Dunn cleared Island and set sail. Look at the differences. And then Chris Island, for ladies and gentlemen watching at home, Chris Island is no slouch. You will see Chris Island deep inside the top 10 in just about everything he races. He's very, very consistent across multiple disciplines. He is not a slouch.
No, and it's been interesting watching Julian in this series because he's super quick, super fast, and he's known for his consistency, but he's actually made a few mistakes under pressure, and it's really good because the pressure of competition at the front there between these guys is so close, so tight, and there's so much on offer. It's a national championship. So, you know, now what have we got here? We've got Andre Yusuf again, who we saw cartwheeling up Camel Straight in the when he's lost it. He's lost it on the way in. So that was a little left over from his turn into the first part of the chicane there. He just lost the rear. So that's probably the rear tyres getting a little bit warm now and losing a little bit of rear grip. They've got to be a bit gentle with it. So now we've got Stewart running up with 3.7 seconds lead now. That's a pretty big lead. But you can easily lose that in a pit stop too. So 3.7 seconds back to Olsen and Delisle, teammates. They're really, really tight together. And Woods about 1.7 seconds off the back of them. Now looking down through the list there, Damien Cairns having a fantastic run tonight. Top 12. Now Damien's a V8 supercar guy who I always needle with the wrong steering wheel and the gear stick on the wrong side. But mate, he's a fabulous competitor and he's doing a superb job. Here we go, across to his in-car. So there he is. Oh, he's got the Formula wheel on tonight. He's got Sirius. I bet he's still got the gear change on the wrong side though.
Well, I wonder whether or not he's got paddle shift on tonight. Whether or not he's actually managed to set it up. Paddle shift. But he's in a cracking battle with Steve Jansen as well. So
there we go.
So, to give you guys. Damo, I have commentated him a couple of times. He's an absolute larrikin. Loves his driving. You will always get something from Damo. It's been a long time between drinks actually for Damien. He's had it's been the longest time I think in recent memory whereby he's been missing out on podiums, missing out on bits and pieces. He's been consistent. The favourite thing that I love about Damien Cairns is if anyone's going to throw a strategy curveball out the window, it's that 88 car, just about every single time.
Well, I think he's really he's really come to grips with the open wheelers, and it looks like he's loving them. He's got a drink there. That's what I done. I'll need. Anyway, but he's really loving them, and see his triple screen set up there. He's got his little dash up on the top, and he's really coming to grips with these open wheelers and enjoying it. And I love the fact that he's now got a Formula wheel as well. That means he's really getting serious, and this is something he's really enjoying. And to see him almost in the top 10 of the S5000 running this FR 3.5 car is absolutely brilliant.
And Dunn is the first of our drivers that'll dive into the pit lane. Look, pushing on, you will burn more fuel. No tyres. There was no up on the jacks there for Julian Dunn. So he will push it on. I'm concerned where he's going to rejoin. No. He's actually going to rejoin a little bit of a hole here. So this actually works really nicely for him. He's going to get maybe a toe out of these guys if he punches that DRS button. It's a little bit of a hole in behind him, so he has got free air. The problem will be, can he pick up a toe? If he picks up a toe here and clips on past these guys nice and quickly, it won't be too much. Daniel Harris is going to get on and have a little bit of a battle there with Cairns and manages to grab that one away. And Jansen and Mazoka. So Jansen, something's happened to Jansen on that lap between La Source. Cairns has not just got by him, he's disappeared.
No, and Kansas up into the top 10. Go, Damien. I love this. I love this. He's such a battler, and he's started out with the F3, and he's had a go at the F4, and he's having a go at the FR 3.5. Mate, he'll drive anything with wheels on it, and he does a brilliant job. But for a guy who sort of learned his craft in a V8, it's a little bit like I'm going to call him Stuart McLaughlin. Scott McLaughlin, because, look at how well Scott's doing in IndyCar, and I feel this is a bit similar with Damien. What a fantastic effort.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it takes a little while. You get that car that you love, that car that you're just like, I really want to drive this car, and your skill set just doesn't suit it. Sometimes you've got to break that water, get away from it, do something different. Stuart Olson's now fallen back to nearly 4 seconds back from Josh Stewart at the top end of town. Delisle is within 0.6 of a second, 0.7 of a second of him, and Damon Woods has actually fallen back out of their tow, so he's become detached from those two drivers in front of him. Have a look at the lap time from Delisle, 2.9, half a second lost by Woods on that most recent lap. So there was a mistake in there, and more pit stops coming our way.
So that's Drew Collins diving into the pits. What I will be interested to see...
Damien Cairns just went around.
Oh, no. Look, commentators cursing, I've done it to him again. But I will be interested to see Julian Dunn's first flying lap post the pit stop and see what sort of time he's doing. So here's Damien. After all that wonderful talk about Damien, I've ruined his night. And he's just got a little bit wide, and just like we saw earlier, but he's no damage done. He's had a little spin. Mate, somebody else will do that, I'm sure, and he'll make the time.
Him to pit this lap, let those tyres cool off, and we know he's listening in. So Damien Cairns, I've just given him the strategy hot tip. If you have a bad lap in this section of the race and you do cook those rear tyres, come in, let them cool off. Why not? Julian Dunn still trying to press on, and it's actually really, really important on this one. We've got to keep half an eye on his lap times. Well,
yeah, so he is in traffic, so it'll be interesting to see what time he can pull out, because Josh Stewart is just running off those two deads, and so is Tim Delisle. They're in that 2-minute dead range, and that's awfully quick in these cars,
particularly with a lot high fuel and probably tyres that are a little bit on the hot side. They're not cooked, but they're definitely, once you get into race trim, they run a little bit hotter than their preferred zone, which is why the times aren't quite necessarily there when that tread wear as well. So got to save up a little bit of tyre, but there'll be a few guys that'll probably be diving into the pit lane this lap. I'm curious to keep half an eye on our leaders. Have a look at Olsen though now. Getting closer and closer and closer. I don't think it'll be too long before he'll have a crack. I would love to see Greg Olsen go for the undercut here. Absolutely would.
Damon Woods in the pit lane. So Damon's dived into the pits, and he's going to pull a stop here, and he's going to try and get back out, get a few good laps where he's not sort of in that dirty air, and see if he can pull himself back up onto Delisle and Olsen. That's Jacob Maybury driving a very hot-rodded S5000. Mate, there's not a lot of aero left on that.
That'll be an unfortunate end to the night for him.
They do get one quick repair, so he'll get it back round to the pits, and he'll probably be fine. Oh, it just lost the rear end, and it just spat him the other way and straight into the fence. It's a really, really nasty accident.
And they do snap quickly, these cars as well. Very, very quick. You've got to be pinpoint precise. Like I've been basically sitting on board with a few different drivers throughout the race. Damon Woods, you guys I think mentioned it back in Austria, was driving the car.
So you can see, just got on that inside curb, just hot rear tyres, just lost a little bit of rear, and she just snapped and then bit and span him straight into the wall. Not much you can do to stop that.
I think it was the transition off the curb. Right as the suspension sort of flexed and loaded around a little bit was right where he lost it. And if you have a look at what Damien Kansas incident again, it was right as he transitioned onto the backside of the curb that he lost it. So it was that different grip level between the striped curb and the AstroTurf, and dropping over under that dip. And they were very, very sensitive car.
Yeah, because when you get on a curb, it lifts the car up off the ground, and you lose a lot of the ground effects and the downforce that comes from underneath the car. So you got to be very, very careful on the curves with these. And we see Tim Delisle there grabbing a little bit of curve on the inside of Blanchimont. That's not something he should be doing too often if he wants to keep it pointed the right way.
Well, I mean, highest downforce section of the track though, so you get away with it a little bit more there.
But you've got, and looking here, Delisle and Olsen, they're both their teammates, so they'll be talking to each other on comms. These guys will be talking to each other, and you know, I think they're just playing it safe. They're just in cruise mode here. They don't have the pace to pull in Stewart. He's now 4 seconds up the road. Josh Stewart has absolutely given everybody a driving lesson tonight. It's a brilliant piece of driving.
He just said, I want a clean race. That's it. That's all I want. I'm not too fussed about where I finish. I just want to keep it nice and clean, keep the head on the ground, keep the car pointing in the right direction. Nothing else matters.
Clean up the race. Clean up the race. He's just cleaned up everybody.
Oh, well, that's understatement of the night. If he comes back in here and we see him at the other end, commentator's curse was standing. If he spins now, you know we're both in trouble.
Oh, yeah, we are. Don't even mention it. So, my timing screen's about to run out of batteries. Don't you love the technology these days?
At least you can get up and walk around with yours. I'm stuck where I am.
So Konitska here working on the back of Bailey Evans, and it's all battles all the way down through. These guys are fighting for 12th place, and they will be fighting just as hard as the leaders are, because every place means absolute sheep station to every one of them. So yeah, so looking down through there now, Vella's still sitting there in 4th, Sagan 5th, Chris Island still there in 6th, but he's sort of 6 seconds off the back of Siag now. Now Sags comes through quite well, because he was back behind Island earlier. Jansen's still there cruising. He's right on the back of Island. And then you've got Woods back there in 8th place after his pit stop. So looking at the difference there, from Woods with 28 seconds behind, Dunn is 6 seconds behind Woods after the pit stops. So that's on corrected time. So that's interesting, you know, where is Stewart, Delisle and Olsen going to come out in regards to Woods? Because Woods has got 2 seconds up the road in front of him to Jansen. So I think he's probably running in clean air.
So just having a quick look, Julie, remember Julian Dunn, we were talking about a little bit fuel saving, and Damon Woods has been sitting in a lot of draft throughout this race as well, and Julian Dunn's had to lift off in behind Damien Cairns at the moment. He is millimetres from that rear wing, and here goes Julian Dunn. That's the second time Damien Cairns has had to deal with him, albeit this time because Julian Dunn's actually pit. Critical thing. Actually, I tell you what, Julian Dunn just hit the fastest sector of the race from Stavelot, from the entry to the first Stavelot, all the way through to Blanchimont. So he can thank Damien Cairns for all of that run, actually.
That beautiful toe that he got, yes.
But Dunn was 1 second slower from pit lane entry to pit lane exit. And I have a feeling that'll be, I don't have down to decimal point times, I only have 1 second. So that could be 1.5 seconds, and we wouldn't know too much about it on Damon Woods. And I had a look further in the pack for a couple of the other drivers to have pit. Julian Dunn went longer on the pit lane. So that's where he has lost a fraction of that time, but also overtaking cars.
Now, I'm looking also on these cars with the rear wings. Now, we were discussing this earlier. I'm not sure whether it's the basic setup they start with and it just assigns a wing level to it. But visually, there is a difference between the cars on how upright the rear wing is. So these guys look to me have got like what looks like a medium downforce level on the rear wing. When you see the low downforce, they're quite a bit flatter, and when they've got the high downforce, that wing's really quite vertical. So looking at them, they're running a sort of mid-wing. You see that I think the second car, maybe the second car of Olsen has a little bit more rear wing than the front one. Maybe my eyes telling telling lies, but I was noticing it in qualifying, and a couple of guys were running. They were very little wing on the rear in qualifying. So yeah, it's an interesting thing as you go through, and we watch different cars there. Just check out the rear wing. See, Damon Wood's rear wing looks a lot lower to me. That may be because it's white, but it does look lower to me. And there's a couple of guys running really steep ones.
Also think about the way that, so pit lane time's actually up on screen at the moment. That's really, really interesting. So 0.7 of a second longer was done to Woods. But have a look at Mort deep in the pack, 6.3, 6.2 seconds stop for Ryan as well. Griffith 6, all down in that 6 seconds. So obviously the guys at the front, more full throttle time or more time on throttle, they will burn more fuel. Yeah, I agree with you. And the other thing I'm thinking as well is that Damon Woods has struggled to stay with drivers tonight and has looked like he's most of a threat in a straight line. And the third thing I think says to me that he will be running a little bit less of a wing. I've been watching him manage oversteer perfectly all night long. He's been driving the car right on that level of grip, that real edge of grip. So that's important to me. Is Chris Island, I think, starting to fade? Or is that Chris Island post-pit stop? No, that's not post-pit stop. That's pre-pit stop, so he is fading.
Yeah, so Steve Jansen there making a real challenge down the outside, but it's pretty hard to go around the outside of somebody into that first corner without putting yourself at great risk. And I think he just said, I'll lose this little battle to win the war. So he's going to line him up and try again. And in the background there, what I'd be doing if I was Steve Jansen, I'd probably be letting Damon Woods through and try and hang on to the back of him. And when he makes a hole past Chris, I'd try and follow him through. That would be a smart thing to do, and let Damon become the battering ram to drive himself through that hole.
I'm just worried for Damon Woods because he will be losing time through this sector of the course. Like this is the difficulty with when you pit. If you pit and everyone else is, which is why drivers have been running long this season, if you pit on the very last lap of the fuel tank and everyone else pits on that lap, you don't have to worry about traffic because there will be no traffic. You'll be running in clean air or where you should be on corrected strategy all night long. Josh Stewart going to come to the pit lane. That is going to trigger
as does
all
Lyle,
of the top three.
As does Olsen. So the top three are all in the pit lane together. And make that the top four because Bella's in as well.
Yep, so that says that's longest run, which is exactly what Julian Dunn wants. He wants Christopher Arnold. Well, that's exactly what Damon Woods wants because Woods did get by Janssen on that lap, but closing in on Chris Island, and I think they've all gone to the pit lane.
There's Damon Woods coming up pit straight now, so he very well may make one position out of this.
He's a mile back.
Vella, but has he picked off Vella or not? Yes, he has picked off Phil Vella. So he's got one of them. He's got past Vella out of that group, and there's Dunn on the back of Vella too. Phil, just what you want to see coming out of pit lane. Julian Dunn in your mirrors. Yeah, so Woods has picked off one, but yeah, I mean, he's still 5 seconds off Olsen. So I don't think Damon Woods is going to make the podium this evening.
No, he hasn't, and it was all the traffic. All of that traffic. I was expecting Damon Woods to get, just based upon the posture I've seen him drive other cars, he tends to get quite aggressive when he wants to get on with traffic. He will get very, very aggressive. But the other side of the coin is, this is the Damon Woods that I'm not used to seeing, where he's got control of a championship and maybe needs to play it a little bit safer. We're round 5 tonight, so this is the halfway mark. Yep, this is a different kind of Damon Woods than I'm used to.
Yeah, so he's got a lead to protect, and with Julian Dunn in a bit of trouble and Tim Delisle not leading the race, I mean, it is a bit of damage limitation. If you haven't always got the speed, you know. Sometimes it's just not your night, and it may not be Woods' night tonight. Now we're looking here, Daniel Harris.
Yeah, Daniel Harrison in this battle, this will continue on to the other race. And have a look at Chris Island just dropping back in behind these guys, yeah.
I love this livery on Daniel Harris's car. I call it the Lion King livery with the lion on the back and the bright yellow. It's a great looking car. Look at the helmet he's got on, yellow with the Italian stripes down the middle. I imagine there must be some Italian heritage in there somewhere. It's a Ferrari helmet he's got on now. I don't recognise that. Whose Ferrari helmet is that one? Or is that his?
That's just a yellow Ferrari helmet. The old they used to go a fair bit yellow back, what was it, the 80s, 90s, or the old F50s and F40s and whatnot? They did have a little bit of yellow there.
Very interesting, but it looks great with the car. The detail these guys go to present the car, present their helmets. They've got overalls, they've got proper overalls painted up as well. So, yeah, it's a really, really fabulous effort from them. And gosh, he's right up under the back of Collins' rear wing there. This is a great little battle between Sag, Collins and Harrison. They've just picked off a couple there as Evans and Konitska dive into the pits in front of them, and Mazoka's in there as well. So that moves Collins and Harris up into 8th and 9th position, which is pretty impressive. And here's the Olsen and Delisle running nose to tail. Or actually should be Delisle and Olsen because they've swapped positions. But running nose to tail as teammates. That's
We were just talking about Dan Harris and was it Steve Jansen? No, it wasn't Steve Jansen. It was Drew Collins.
Drew Collins.
And that was just a misread overtake from Harris. He was closing on him through a Rouge Redillion. And I think that there may have been a moment there for Drew Collins as he's come through. Because if you watch how he crests the hill here, he's all the way across the curb and Harris sweeps back.
Ooh. I would suggest that there might be a bit of race control action on that one.
I think that's a slam dunk as well.
Yeah, he's just running to the back of him. That's just unfortunate, but yeah, he's running to the back of him.
Well, I mean, particularly with that section of track and the tragedies we've had there in recent years as well.
Yeah, luckily that doesn't happen in sim racing, so that's one big plus. But you can see how easily it happens, and as Rue would say, that's definitely a smack up the afterburners.
Yeah, look, I don't think afterburners are good for your front wing, Daniel, but we'll move on with that one.
So there's Dunn picking up Vela. Oh, they've touched in the middle of the chicane there. A little touch, no damage. Hopefully, whoa. So Julian Dunn, he's backed off there. I don't know why he's backed off. Has he got damage? Or was he just readdressing that, thinking he'd done the wrong thing? Maybe he's just readdressing that position.
I wonder whether or not he's running out of room or something on the mid-corner here, because he's propped him up very, very heavily. Yeah, he knows that he's deep there. He's running right out of road and he wasn't 100% clear. That's 100% a redress. Good job. Play on.
Yep. So that's a very gentlemanly thing to do, especially with a national championship on offer. So you can see he's run a bit deep here, and he's felt he ran wide, and he thinks he's given Phil a bit of a tap, and he's let Phil back pass through to do the right thing, and he'll come back and give him another driving lesson.
He's already got back by him, by the way, because he then got the opportunity to follow him all the way down the Camel Straight. And if that doesn't present an overtaking opportunity, Dan Harris now fighting with the rear end of that car as Seg's going to go on and buy him and up into 7th place. And in the meantime, Josh Stewart takes a look at his watch and says, how long have we got left, boys?
We've got about 7 minutes left, and that looks like Collins finally got it back. So it's not tracking very straight. It's running a bit sideways. It looks like an old-fashioned Indy car. So, yeah, not looking great. But so Dunn now, 5th place. He's 8 seconds off the back of Woods. So, look, I think a top 5 for Phil Vella is a great effort. Dunn there. Top 6 for Phil Vella.
He's not had long run pace. He's been, as the race has gone on, he's sort of got in the way early and banked everyone up. I reckon Josh Stewart has probably got a thanks Phil Vella to offer at the end of this race, because I don't know. Look, he got clear. He got 2 seconds out of Phil Vella, and the rest he's earned it on his own. But that first 2 seconds is so important.
Well, at the moment he's dropping a bit of time because the guys behind him on that last lap were about a half a second quicker than he was. But he does have 4 seconds up his sleeve, and as the old saying goes, you win at the slowest pace possible, which means you don't need to win by half a lap. You just need to go across the line first. So don't try and throw it into the fence trying to put a half a lap on everybody.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But at the same
dive down the outside by Konitska, and he's pulled that off. That's a great move around the outside there. And again, the third one back there being Bailey Evans trying to snatch a little position out of that. And it looks like he's probably going to get, is it Konitska or Marzocca? He's going to get Marzocca. I always get Konitska and Marzocca mixed up for some reason. But
all 3 of these drivers, for your knowledge, Dave, all 3 of these drivers went the longest on fuel tonight. All 3 of them went to that 1 extra lap over everyone else. So they've done a phenomenal job. in terms of their fuel saving. Now Bailey Evans has got the opportunity to dip out of the slipstream, but that presents an opportunity to Marzoka to get that slipstream back. Now the double slipstream. Is he going to be able to make the most of that hole punched in the air? Where is the draft going to end up? Where's the dirty air? And he's forced to lift yet again from Evans, but that's going to present an opportunity. Marzoka runs wide. They'll go too wide as they get to Malmady at the top of the hill. The run down to Ravage. Who's going to be brave on the brakes down here? We saw Lando Norris go around the outside on fresher rubber. They run each other wide, right out to the eggs of the pavement. Good racing, boys. Play on.
I think Bailey Evans carrying a little bit more wings. He did, when he popped out of the toe, he actually didn't go past. He went backwards, and yet he had a little bit more grip around those. Oh, that's a big dive, and he's run wide. But I think he's got a little bit more grip on this twisty bit, but he hasn't quite got the straight line speed. So he's getting a bit frustrated there in behind Kanitska. So that'll be a battle to watch as they get up onto Blanchimont and see how they go down to the chicane. Here we go. Look at that. That's a big move and running a little bit wide on the inside. So here we go. Up through Blanchimont, how they're running, and see if Marzoka can get in his toe. So he's got near his toe, but I don't think he's got enough to pull out past. But he may, with a little bit more wing, he should be a little bit later on the brakes. Now is it and there we go. Kanitska's covering and down the outside. He's locked him up and gone straight on. Oh, nasty little rejoin there, and he's trying to save that next position because he's now got. Who's that all over the back? Sam Mort. Well, Sam Mort's trying to, jump on this camping van and ride it off into the sunset. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I do think that. Evans there seems to be carrying a little bit more wing, and that's really hurting him in the battle. He just can't get up beside the guys in the straight line to make that challenge into the corners.
So Daniel Harris has received a drive-through penalty from race control for contact on lap number 20, and updates coming in from chat as well saying, I think that was the Charles Leclerc 2022 Monza helmet.
There we go.
Harris. There you go. So yeah, we're close there, but they're also paying, I believe, a little bit of heritage to some of their historical designs. Sam Mort though was really, really happy watching those guys throw it all out. We're running down. We're going to have 2 more laps left to run, ladies and gentlemen. That white flag will not be out this time based upon our timing screens. There will be 1 more to go. And Josh Stewart is now down to 3.5 seconds. The thing that I'm worried about here, though, is can we get those pit stop times back up? Because Stewart was exceptionally quick through the lane. It has me a fraction concerned. He was a full second less spent static in the pit lane, and that definitely rings alarm bells for me.
You're thinking low fuel.
I am.
Has he taken enough?
Well, I mean, he's got 4 seconds, so the benefit is, if he needs to save some, he's got margin. There you go. There's the helmet.
That helmet. Beautiful. So I was looking at that and thinking that it reminded me of somebody's helmet. I couldn't think what it was, but yes, Charles Leclerc, perfect. How good's that? Thank you, whoever that was in the chat. Perfect. Just what I wanted to know.
But have a look at those numbers as well. Delisle and Olsen were both thinking, I think they both looked at each other and went, yeah, I think we can pull him in because we've saved enough fuel. That really concerns me. I've got a big question mark over Josh Stewart now. Yeah,
and Damon Woods there, 7 point. Or is that pit stop time? What am I looking at there?
Static time. That's the amount of time they're in the lane, in their
7.4 seconds for Damon Woods. That's and Julian Dunn 8.1. Okay. That's taking on more fuel to get to the finish, I suppose. So there we go. Because they don't have to start with a full tank. They just have a maximum amount of fuel they can start with. So you can actually start with low fuel and do a short run and then fill it up and finish the race. But, any fuel you have to put in takes time. So most of the guys will start with as much fuel as they can. So that will make their pit stop as short as possible.
That's the thing. When you've got maximum tank size and you need to refuel, differences to Formula One is that Formula One doesn't have to refuel. That's the comparison. I think that might have thrown a few people for a loop. All right, Stewart's going to come down. This will be the crucial lap. Does he pit this time by? If not, he's committed. If there is a fuel question mark, he's got one more lap before he has to cross that start finish line. Has he got the 3 or so litres worth of fuel that's going to take to get back to the start finish line? That is the key.
Greg Olsen had a little moment there coming out of the chicane. I saw him lose the back end a little bit, but he's very quick and grabbed it. He's done, followed by Vela. They're running together, still running together, and Phil's hanging onto him well. And he needs to, because Sags, or Sag, or Sag, whatever, he's not very far off the back. So, you got to keep this thing under control for one more lap, boys, because they're all queued up behind you. So,
the battle, Dave, for who's going to finish last in the top 10 or who's going to sneak into that top 10 is going to hot up, because Daniel Harris has been running in that top 10 for most of the race until that penalty. He's just had a huge moment in the chicane. He's just ahead of these guys as Marzoka and Evans are going to go toe-to-toe as they go through the chicane. Evans will come out away with the place, but Sam Mort's now brought his way into this argument. They'll receive the white flag as well. Who's going to be brave on the final lap at Spa? Well, we've got 3 separate battle packs to keep our eyes on. That is Daniel Harris in the background of that one. If they've got the DRS flaps activations left, you can firmly be assured that they're about to be madly pushing that button as they crest running on.
Button. I think Damien Cairns got caught here. Unfortunately, I think he's got caught. But he'll be mashing that button. He hasn't got a push to pass. That looks to me like he didn't have a push to pass, whereas the car in front did. Look at the gap difference. That's what it is. Damien Cairns is out of push to pass, unless he's saving it up for the last run down in the Belchmont. Oh, that'd be a ballsy move. So they will have saved that up, and they'll be mashing that push to pass button on the last lap, trying to use everything up. Because I know, talking to Damon Woods, he said, I always save enough to cover all the straights on the very last lap, So Josh Stewart, brilliant drive down into the chicane, absolute driving lesson. Taught everybody how to drive a 3.5 at Spa tonight. He has. What a brilliant drive. Well done, Max Stewart, isn't it?
That's it. And then in between him as well, it's going to be Tim Delisle with a phenomenal drive. I really enjoyed that from Tim Delisle and Greg Olsen as well. Damon Woods will sit there in P4 and go, oh, look, I could have been a little bit more aggressive at times. Did I have the strategy wrong? Was there something else at play? So I think there's a few question marks to be asking himself. And with a championship lead, sometimes you do throw it out the window and do something different. Done. What a drive. Rear of the grid to 5th.
And, brilliant, because what that is damage limitation for the championship. So Dunn's trying to keep himself in.
Fuel.
Oh, no. Oh, Damien, what have you done?
Knitzer and Harris are going to go into this last corner as well. Sam Mort's going to go and pick the pockets there of Marzoka. Bailey Evans is going to get through, but it's going to be Sam Mort, I think, that steals at the line, Dave.
These guys have had a fabulous race. I bet they'll be grinning from ear to ear. I did see Sam Mort there. He came through that first run. He shut down the inside line into the second part.
Is that a fuel? He's still not making it.
Damien Kent is rolling to a stop down into the chicane. Damien, what have you done? Oh, mate, I'm going to buy you a calculator. Oh, how unfortunate. Oh, my heart breaks for him. He's had a great race, driven brilliantly, sitting in the top 10. And look at him. There he is in his rig, and he's got his head in his hands, and he is absolutely shattered, as he should be. That is so disappointing. He didn't deserve that at all. Brilliant drive. Look at him. He's so upset.
It's these fan-bangled Formula cars. If it was a V8 supercar, he knew what the fuel number was.
How unfortunate. But it does show that they run it close on fuel.
Well, he didn't even have a short stop. That was the question mark for me, because I thought he'd actually taken more than enough fuel. I thought he was well and truly covered.
Well, obviously not. But I will say that's a lesson well learned, and I doubt we'll see him do it again. But it's such a pity, because he was, he was looking at his first top 10 finish in S5000, which is a brilliant effort. And to run out of fuel like that, just shattering. So these boys will run back around to the finish line and take it into the pits, and hopefully they'll come and have a chat to us very shortly.
I think they're still out there having fun. I don't think it's sunk in yet for Josh. Josh Stewart.
I think Josh might just keep lapping.
He's had 5 minutes of chaos, followed by 45 minutes of cruise control.
Yeah, no, he certainly had the speed tonight. He just had that little bit of something extra on everybody, and it was a brilliant drive and well deserved, very, very well deserved win.
It was just solid. It was clinical. He got out. He put the car in all the right spots. I think Phil Vella, his opening lap was absolute standout because I'm pretty sure it was him that led as we come back to the start-finish line at the end of lap number 1. So he did a phenomenal job, but obviously just not able to keep the tyres underneath him, or pace fell by the wayside. Positive Sim Racing will nag 2 of those podium positions, and that's a well-deserved result for both of those guys as well. And Damon Woods, he'll take 4th, he'll bank those points, and he'll start looking at the end of the season. Daniel Harris came to the attention of race control in the middle of that race, misses out on a top 10 finish, and I think that'll play on his mind as well.
So it was Marcus Konitska in the end that stole that 10th place and that last spot in the top 10. So well done, Marcus. There was some fantastic racing going on in the middle, and
it's a real shame.
Well earned. I think we have Josh with us right now. So congratulations, mate. What a fabulous night you've had.
Yeah, clean sweep. I tell you what, though, I was sweating. Tim was on a charge, and I thought in the pit stop I didn't put enough fuel in, and so the first few laps I was trying to fuel save out there, and luckily the calculator figured it out and I was all right to the end. So yeah, I was sweating a little bit there, but yeah, stoked, really so happy. Finally got a podium in the feature, and yeah.
Something I want to talk to you about, and again, it's one of those things that real life race car drivers, they don't have to do. It's the quirks of sim racing. You are your own driver, you're your own race manager, you're your own crew chief, you're your own strategy planner. It is a handful. The benefit for you tonight is obviously with that second race, you were out clear, so you had a lot of time to think about it, a lot of breathing room on the straights. You weren't fighting, but talk to us about the complexity, particularly with Spa being one of the longest laps of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you should see my setup. I've got like calculators and track maps and just stuff going on everywhere to try and keep ahead of it all. But you know what? Sometimes being out in front with a lot of time to think about it is it's
not
also
a good thing.
It's an enemy because you start thinking, oh, can I push? Can I do this? Looking in your rearview mirror constantly. So yeah, look, Spa is a real challenge in this car in particular because the quickest way around the lap for qualifying is a high downforce setup. And then the quickest way around the lap in a race is a medium downforce. And you'd think, oh, there's not much difference between the two, but it's like a different car. And so making that transition from quali to race is a real cognitive switch. And then all the things that you're talking about just then, thinking about, if a safety car comes out, should I pit or not? How much fuel I should take? And there's a lot going on. So finally put it all together this week. And so I'm really stoked with that. Yeah.
As you should be. It's a fantastic drive. It's interesting hearing that the high downforce setting is fastest thing in qualifying, but in the race you need that straight line speed up the straight. Otherwise, you just get passed in a straight line all the time. Whereas it's hard to pass in the middle of the corner. So
I was about to say,
it's really interesting.
Taking strategy and setup notes from McLaren.
Yeah, we're running the wet weather setup here in quali.
Yeah, great.
Thankfully,
the weather's not quite with us yet.
Yeah, there's no parc ferme, so that sort of puts that aside. And the only reason it works in quali is because you get unlimited DRS through the whole lap. So
yes.
That's the only reason that sort of makes it work, and why it doesn't work in the race as well.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Fantastic drive. Really, really, really well done, and great to see you standing on the top step of the podium there.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
So, Chris, I might let you take the next one with Tim Delisle.
Oh, Chris isn't here this week, Dave. It's Scott.
Oh, Chris Scott.
Wrong
Sorry.
guy. You're getting mixed up. Look, much like our guys on the second and third steps of the podium, they share liveries, they share teammate duties, and they're there for each other. It was an interesting conversation, obviously, with Josh. You guys are both here to sort of talk us through that. It's a different relationship again, because when you've got a teammate sitting around you, you've got somebody to gauge yourself off. And talk to us a little bit about what it's like, obviously, working together. Do we see some elements? I'm pretty sure I saw you guys swap drafting or slingshot drafting at different points throughout that race as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this season, Greg and I in PSR have been working with the DFR guys, and Josh, in particular, has been the setup wizard this season, so he's just as much a teammate. So, this was a whole team effort with everyone. We actually talked before the race. Josh got pole, I was P2. We were going to try to basically block the track without blocking the track down the Kemmel Straight on that first lap, because here comes Sebastian Vettel, the guy behind gets a massive tow, and that was our plan, and didn't quite work out because Julian found a way through, and we had the incident there. But then once I was able to fight my way through in the feature race, Greg didn't make it difficult for me. The hard part for me was just getting into his slipstream in the first place. And then once I passed him, he said, "We're good, won't challenge." So it was just really nice knowing that he was there, but not having to look in my mirrors for someone sending it into the comm or bus stop or anything like that. And from there, I was able to just get my head down and get the car through to the finish.
In terms of the championship as well, we're at the halfway mark now. We've just run through Spa. It's been a little bit of a whole bunch of different elements to it. We've followed a lot of the Formula One calendar, but that's also the best tracks for this sort of a setup and this sort of a car as well. Is there been any real highlights? Is it maybe this week at Spa? Are you enjoying the teamwork? Are you enjoying the work together? What's the season thus far been like for you, and what does the rest of the season hold?
Yeah, the teamwork and the collaboration's been awesome. I've really enjoyed that. Racing's been good as well. I've had, my last season that I raced full time was 2021 season 1. So just getting back into the swing of things has been really good. As far as highlights, I think this feature race might be it, because, after the incident in the sprint race, I was really seeing the red mist and thinking it was all over. So to make that recovery drive, get through cleanly in that feature was really good. And also just I'm so happy for Josh, because he's worked really hard and had some terrible luck along the way, and he's really deserved this for a while now. So overall that's been a great highlight as well.
All right, that's enough of the mushy stuff between you guys. No, seriously, this is actually really, really important to talk to that, and teammates bringing each other up. But thank you very much for your time, obviously, Tim. And then finally, Dave, I believe you got Greg on standby for us as well.
Yeah, so Greg, mate, you sat there in second place for a long time before Tim sort of worked his way through, and Tim, we've just heard Tim say that you were the very good. Are we going to call you Perez? And sat there in second place and said you wouldn't challenge.
I think I was a bit too close to Tim to be called a Perez, but I was more of a rear gunner, I would say. The goal was always to get Tim in front, and I guess to that end as well, I knew he was probably going to come through the field in the feature race, so Josh probably didn't appreciate it, but my goal was to disrupt the front of the race as much as possible, but without causing, not with any nefarious tactics or anything like that. So in terms of what happened on lap 4 with Damon, where I ran wide at turn 1, I'm really sorry for that. Didn't intend to have any contact there or anything like that. So
he's lying. We planned it all.
No, we couldn't even do a tow in qualifying. We were hopelessly organised, to be honest. We tried, but no, honestly, it went perfectly, and I can only sort of parrot what Tim and Josh have said. But massive congrats to Josh as well for the win.
And these cars are beautiful around this big circuit. Spa's a classic track, and it really does suit these cars. And did you watch the Grand Prix on Sunday night and get a little bit inspired for tonight?
Normally I would, and normally I would wax lyrical about it, but look, it is a fantastic track for these cars, and and it's just so flowing and smooth, and it suits the car to a T. And look, I didn't do that much practice, to be honest. I really benefited from the setup work that Joshy and Tim did. So I was able to just really jump in, and it just clicked, because it's such a great combo.
And the next round of S5000, we're off to Monza. So another high-speed circuit, and probably going to have that same sort of low downforce or high downforce setting for qualifying, and the whole changing thing you've got here at Spa. You'll have that, and probably a little bit more at Monza. So there we go. So tonight, finish off. Thank yous. Anybody you'd like to thank tonight, Greg?
Oh, yep. Well, I'll just thank them again, Josh and Tim, and the rest of the DFR crew. Like Tim said, they've been lots of fun to hang out with, and for me, that's been the highlight. Just getting together on Sunday night for a little practice race, and then getting together again for these races on Tuesday night. They've been lots of fun. So, thanks to those guys. Thanks to you guys for the commentary that you provide and the broadcast, and I guess thanks to the organisers of the series.
Cheers. Tim, across to you. Anybody you'd like to thank for this evening, your sponsors, etc.?
Yeah, I'm stupidly tired, so I'll just echo everything Greg said, and also add in my my new wife, Amy. New wife implies that I had an old wife, but no, she's my first one. It's just the first time I've been able to call her my wife on a broadcast, so yeah, I've been looking forward to that one.
Congratulations on that account. That's another trophy in your cabinet.
Yeah, thank you.
And Josh, mate, again, from us here, thanks for a fantastic night's racing, a real display of talent. And is there anybody else you'd like to thank, and sponsors, etc.?
Yeah, thanks, Downforce Racing. We started this team, I don't know, 4 or 5 years back, just a bunch of dudes that hung out and wanted to race cars, so nothing serious, but thanks to Jace, Mick, Shane, Nick, Jay, Phil, and as Tim and Greg were saying, it's great to have the PSR guys hanging out with us this year. Big thanks to them. They've really pushed us along, really pushed me as well to try and be better, and I reckon if Tim started next to me, it would be a bit of a different outcome. I think he would have pushed it hard. So yeah, thanks to those guys, and yeah, as Greg mentioned, thanks to you guys as well. I love watching the broadcast, so yeah, catch you next time at Monza. Take care.
Cheers.
I was literally going to say the same thing, Dave. Cheers. Thanks to everyone for obviously coming along. It's been a pleasure on a Tuesday night. A rare joy. Something completely different to fill my Tuesday night. Dave, I've had an absolute blast. I think they've covered it off just about generally. And the other thing I want to point out is probably that sentiment of team racing. You see it in real life. You see the number of guys. I've seen it. We were talking about motorcycle racing actually before we went live, ladies and gents, because we share that same love between Dave and I. And the amount of guys I've seen at national titles. You see a guy. I had a bike blow up at national titles in a practice session. There was 5 teams and 5 dads of my direct rivals that walk over, and immediately they start doing it. Motor racing is a team sport. It's a village sport. It's a community sport, and I think that really encompassed it tonight. That left me with warm, tingly feelings. I love that.
I'm pleased that you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure to have you. Unfortunately, Chris has got the reason he's missing is he has a bad throat and a bit of a cold, so not exactly what you need for commentating. And Luke's a bit down as well. So at one stage there, it was looking like I was going to be by myself. So I thank you very much for coming and joining me and keeping me company and giving me that time to catch my breath.
It's been a pleasure, and well, who knows what the future may hold for these guys. Who knows what the future may hold for the Formula S5000 and Racecraft series in the coming weeks as well. That championship is really going to dice up after this week. I can't wait to see what Monza holds.
Awesome. Well, till Monza. Next weekend, before we go to Monza, next weekend we have, now let me double check the calendar a minute just before we all go. So next weekend we have Formula Ford again, and it is at Sandown, and it's the weekend before, so we're on the Tuesday night, it's the Formula Ford Championship, and it is that weekend, following weekend is actual Formula Fords at Sandown. So you can watch them here on Tuesday night, and then you can go and watch like Damon Woods, for instance, and quite a few of the others, you can get out there at the Sandown on the weekend following and go and watch them race the real thing. So that's a pretty interesting thing to be able to do. And that's our next round next week, next Tuesday, Formula Ford at Sandown. Until then, I wish you all good night.
Program activated.